Welcome, viewers from across the world. Before we begin this prophetic journey through Jerusalem, we'd love to know, from where are you watching this revelation unfold? Share your city in the comments below. This is a historic moment, and we want to see how the entire world is witnessing what's happening in Jerusalem right now. The ancient stones of Jerusalem whisper secrets today. Secrets held in silence for generations. Secrets that have waited for this precise moment to be revealed. Pilgrims flood the narrow streets, their faces alight with anticipation. They come from the far corners of the earth, from nations that didn't exist when the prophecies were written. Something extraordinary is happening. You can feel it in the air, thick with expectation and sacred possibility. The very atmosphere carries a weight of glory that even the skeptical cannot deny. The old city's gates welcome thousands from every nation, every tongue. Russian voices mingle with Portuguese. Chinese pilgrims walk alongside Africans. Europeans and Americans join hands with Middle Eastern believers. They've been called here, not by man, but by something greater, something that transcends human organization or planning. The appointment was set long ago, written in sacred texts that have outlived empires. And now the time has come. The hour strikes on heaven's clock. Jerusalem stirs with supernatural life, awake to its divine destiny. The watchmen on the walls have sounded the alarm, not in fear but in recognition. This is the moment they've waited for through generations, through exile and return, through destruction and rebuilding, through centuries of prayers directed toward this sacred space. The call echoes through valleys and mountaintops, from Zion to the Mount of Olives. A spiritual awakening spreads like morning light chasing away darkness. The sound of the shofar cuts through spiritual slumber. It announces a new season. A time appointed before the foundation of the world. Ancient prophecies spring to life before our eyes. Words that seemed poetic or metaphorical now manifest in flesh and spirit with startling literalness. The fig tree blossoms, the desert blooms, the exiles return, the nations gather. This is no coincidence, no random alignment of events. This gathering was foretold with supernatural precision. The alignment of events speaks of divine orchestration beyond human capability. The mathematical probability of such convergence defies calculation. The veil between heaven and earth grows thin in Jerusalem today. Those with spiritual sensitivity report unprecedented encounters. Visions increase, dreams intensify. The supernatural becomes almost ordinary in this extraordinary time. What was written by prophets of old unfolds in our time. Isaiah spoke of this day from 2,700 years ago, seeing through the corridors of time with divine precision. Jeremiah glimpsed it through tears as he mourned Jerusalem's first destruction, yet foresaw her ultimate restoration. Ezekiel saw it in divine visions while in Babylonian exile, when return seemed impossible. Zechariah detailed it with specificity that only makes sense in our generation. The puzzle pieces of prophecy, scattered across millennia, now form a clear picture for those with eyes to see. The restoration promised is taking physical form in ways previous generations could only imagine. The healing foretold now touches broken hearts visibly before witnesses. Nations stream to Jerusalem, just as it was written, in an unprecedented ingathering that defies political logic. Former enemies arrive seeking reconciliation. The ingathering accelerates before our eyes at a pace that astonishes statistical analysts and demographic experts. Prophecy fulfilled is both terrifying and beautiful, a divine paradox playing out on the world stage. It demands response. Neutrality becomes impossible in the face of such evidence. Jerusalem stands at the center, just as the ancient texts declared, not by human design or diplomatic decision, but by divine decree that supersedes geopolitical arrangements. This isn't history, this is now. As you watch this unfold, you witness prophecy in motion. The mystery, hidden for ages, reveals itself today in real time. Every prayer whispered at the western wall adds to the tapestry of fulfillment. Every tear shed on these stones waters the seeds of ancient promises now sprouting. Every shofar blast echoing against Jerusalem's ancient walls announces the continued unfolding of divine timetables. This is happening now, unfolding in real time as you witness it. The cameras capture what prophets longed to see but didn't experience in their lifetimes. You aren't watching a documentation of the past. You're witnessing the fulfillment of what was written for this specific hour. The present moment carries eternal weight, each minute pregnant with significance that historians will study for generations to come. Time itself seems to bend in Jerusalem today, where past and future converge in a sacred now that transcends linear understanding. Eternity touches temporality in visible manifestation. The prophetic word proves itself alive, not a static text, but a living force that shapes current reality. Jerusalem becomes the nexus point where divine promise meets present experience in tangible demonstration. Listen to the voices rising in prayer, from every language, every tradition. Babel reversed as understanding transcends linguistic barriers. Pilgrims who've journeyed thousands of miles, drawn by an invisible pull they struggle to explain rationally. Families who've waited generations to touch these stones, carrying the prayers of ancestors now fulfilled in their presence. Young and old, rich and poor, united in this moment beyond social division. Orthodox Jews pray alongside Christians from denominations that normally avoid each other. Barriers between traditions temporarily suspended in recognition of something greater at work. Their prayers create a tapestry of sound unlike anything heard since ancient times. The harmony of diversity creates a sound that heaven recognizes. Some weep in recognition of the moment's significance. Others stand silent, overwhelmed by spiritual weight, too profound for words. Many speak of dreams that led them here. Specific visions, received months or years before, that included details they couldn't have known naturally. Visions that guided their steps to Jerusalem at this precise moment, not a day earlier or later. They didn't plan this convergence through human organization. Something greater orchestrated it beyond committee planning or social media campaigns. Their testimonies echo the same theme across linguistic and cultural differences. I had to be here. I was called for this moment. I didn't understand why until I arrived. The shofar sounds from the Temple Mount. Ancient and piercing, it cuts through the noise of modernity like a knife through cloth. The ram's horn, unchanged for thousands of years, speaks with the same voice that brought down Jericho's walls and announced Israel's sacred appointments. Its voice speaks what words cannot express. It bypasses intellectual barriers and resonates with something deeper in the human spirit. The sound penetrates stone and flesh alike. It vibrates through ancient architecture and modern technology without diminution. It announces arrival, the arrival of a moment foreordained, the arrival of revelation long anticipated. It declares a boundary crossed between what was and what will be. It heralds a new reality emerging from the chrysalis of the old. Those who have ears understand its language without translation. The first note wavers, uncertain, teruah, the broken cry that speaks of human fragility. The second strengthens, finding resolve, shevarim, the three medium blasts that announce breakthrough. The third extends, tekaya, the firm declaration of established truth. The final tekia, Gedola, holds impossibly long, a bridge between worlds that seems to defy human lung capacity. Jerusalem trembles under its sound, from the depths of its archaeological layers to the heights of its modern towers. The sacred resonance awakens something dormant within the city's very foundations. Stones that witnessed David's reign now witness the fulfillment of David's prophetic psalms. The city itself seems to respond, as though the very molecules of matter recognize their creator's voice in the ancient sound. Remember the exiles who dreamed of return when return seemed impossible. Remember the Spanish Jews who kept house keys for generations after expulsion, whispering "next year in Jerusalem" when Jerusalem was forbidden to them. Remember the Holocaust survivors who emerged from death's shadow to help rebuild what was destroyed. Remember the generations who prayed toward Jerusalem but never saw it with earthly eyes, maintaining faith without evidence. Remember the ancient kings who walked these same paths, David with his psalms and struggles, Solomon with his wisdom and failings, Hezekiah with his reforms and prayers. Remember the prophets who spoke of this day through tears and trials, Jeremiah lamenting in the midst of devastation, Isaiah proclaiming comfort to the exiled, Zechariah detailing rebuilding when ruins were all that could be seen. Their memory lives in this moment. Their hope finds fulfillment now. Their words, preserved through millennia, illuminate our understanding of what unfolds. Traditions preserved through fire and sword, through persecution and diaspora, now illuminate understanding of the present hour. The Passover ritual maintained in secret during Inquisition, the Torah scrolls hidden during pogroms, the faithfulness that outlasted attempts to eradicate it. The threads of history, seemingly scattered, reveal an intricate design when viewed from proper perspective. Jerusalem has fallen 44 times, rebuilt 45. No other city carries such persistent resurrection in its story. This pattern speaks of purpose beyond human persistence, of providence that outlasts conquest, of promise kept through impossible odds that defy statistical probability. The weight of this moment transcends physical sensation. Visitors speak of an unexplainable presence that affects even the most rationally minded, a heaviness that brings both tears and joy simultaneously. The spiritual atmosphere changes hour by hour, shifting like weather patterns, but perceived through spiritual senses. Those sensitive to such things describe waves of revelation moving through gathering places. Insights previously hidden, suddenly made clear to multiple people, simultaneously across different locations. Ancient writings take on new meaning in this context. Passages long debated, suddenly transparent in significance. The veil between seen and unseen realms grows transparent in Jerusalem's unique spiritual ecosystem. Dreams intensify among those gathered, with reports of similar dream symbols appearing to people with no connection to each other. Visions become commonplace among those who never experienced them previously. Accurate words of knowledge pass between strangers who couldn't have known the detailed information naturally. Even skeptics find themselves affected, unable to dismiss the phenomena through rational explanation alone. The impact reaches beyond religious boundaries. Muslims report dreams of Isa. Jews encounter their Messiah in ways that transcend theological categories. Christians find deeper connection to their Hebraic roots. Something fundamental shifts in the spiritual foundation that affects all who encounter it, regardless of belief system. Jerusalem becomes a doorway between dimensions, where heaven's reality bleeds into earth's experience with increasing intensity. What was hidden in mystery begins revealing itself in manifestation. What does this convergence signify? Why now? Why here? The timing aligns with celestial patterns foretold in ancient texts, blood moons and solar eclipses falling precisely on biblical feast days against mathematical odds. The ancient feasts take on urgent meaning beyond traditional observance. Passover speaks of greater exodus. Shavuot anticipates greater revelation. Sukkot foreshadows greater divine dwelling among humanity. Signs in the heavens mirror signs on earth with precise correspondence. The fig tree blossoms, as was prophesied, Israel's restoration occurring exactly as foretold, after exactly the time frame specified, despite centuries of impossibility. The return from the four corners accelerates. Jewish communities thought lost for centuries in Ethiopia, India, China, now restored to ancestral homeland. Ancient enemies find unexpected reconciliation through supernatural encounter rather than diplomatic negotiation. Deserts bloom with supernatural abundance, using innovative agricultural technologies that transform barren land into productive fields. Waters flow from unexpected sources. New aquifers discovered, desalination technology advancing, water reclamation reaching unparalleled efficiency. Technology fulfills what seers described but couldn't understand in their time. Instant global communication, knowledge increasing exponentially, travel accelerating precisely as Daniel foresaw. Global communications enable worldwide witnessing of Jerusalem's mystery. Events no longer limited to local witnesses, but broadcast instantly to every nation. The nations gather both physically and virtually to witness what unfolds on this ancient stage. What happens in Jerusalem reverberates instantly across the world through fiber optic cables and satellite transmissions undreamed of by ancient prophets, yet somehow anticipated in their writings. These are the days described in sealed books, now opened for those with eyes to see and hearts to understand. The unsealing occurs not through human wisdom, but through divine timing that scheduled this revelation for this specific generation. This revelation isn't the conclusion, it's a doorway to what comes next. The mystery unveiled points to greater revelations ahead that build upon what is currently understood. Seeds planted now will grow into future wonders that current language struggles to describe adequately. Jerusalem's current awakening births something new that expands beyond present comprehension. The pattern established here will repeat globally with Jerusalem as first fruits rather than anomaly. What begins in Zion will spread to the nations in concentric circles of influence and revelation. The first fruits emerge, with full harvest promised in coming seasons of spiritual ingathering. Those gathered become messengers to their homelands, carriers of revelation that multiplies through their testimony. The revelation received must be carried forward rather than hoarded as spiritual experience. The torch passes from generation to generation, with younger witnesses now receiving mantles from elders who preserve truth through darker seasons. The story continues beyond what we see today, each chapter building upon previous revelation while introducing new elements of divine narrative. This chapter opens rather than closes the book of end-time revelation concerning Jerusalem's role. Jerusalem reveals its secrets progressively, not all at once, mystery unfolding in measured disclosure appropriate for human capacity to receive. Layer by layer, the divine strategy reveals itself to those positioned to perceive and proclaim what heaven unveils through this unique city set as prophetic timepiece for world history. The world watches with diverse reactions that reveal heart conditions more than intellectual positions. Some nations celebrate the unfolding revelation, aligning policies to support Jerusalem's restoration. Others observe with apprehension, sensing challenge to established world orders and power structures. Media struggles to categorize what transcends categories of conventional journalism and political analysis. Political leaders make pilgrimages to witness firsthand what reports fail to capture adequately through second-hand description. Experts debate significance while missing the essence that speaks to spirit rather than intellect alone. Ordinary people sense importance they cannot articulate, but recognize intuitively beyond academic framework. Jerusalem becomes the focus of global attention by divine design rather than media manipulation. Not through conflict this time, but through mystery that draws rather than repels. The spiritual awakening defies conventional explanation from both religious institutionalism and secular rationalism. Those without spiritual framework struggle to report accurately on phenomena that transcend materialist paradigms, yet the impact spreads regardless of understanding or interpretation. Jerusalem's mystery translates across cultural boundaries without loss of essential meaning. The revelation speaks a language more fundamental than words, the language of spiritual reality that resonates with human souls across all demographic divisions. The message transcends religious systems while fulfilling authentic elements within diverse traditions. It cannot be contained by any single theological framework or denominational structure. It overflows categories and creates new wineskins for new wine of revelation, being poured out without respect to human boundaries or limitations. Ancient gates, lift up your heads. The revelation continues beyond this moment into expanding circles of manifestation. What begins here will not end here, but spreads until it fills the earth with knowledge of divine reality as waters cover the sea. The mystery partially unveiled today points to complete revelation tomorrow in progressive disclosure of divine intent. Jerusalem's story intertwines with every nation's destiny in ways current geopolitical analysis fails to comprehend adequately. The thread pulled here unravels mysteries worldwide as revelatory dominoes fall in sequence. Those who witnessed carry responsibility to testify beyond mere experience into commissioned proclamation. What was seen cannot be unseen. What was heard cannot be unheard. The revelation irreversibly transforms perception and understanding of divine purpose. It brings both comfort and challenge simultaneously. It confirms faith for some, while creating questions for others that lead to deeper seeking. It heals wounds of disappointment while disrupting comfortable religious paradigms that preferred theory to manifestation. It offends intellect while satisfying spirit. Such is the nature of divine revelation. It transforms as it touches, leaving nothing and no one unchanged in its wake. Jerusalem's mystery invites participation, not mere observation or intellectual analysis. It calls for response appropriate to revelation received. The final chapters remain unwritten in human history, awaiting their appointed time for manifestation. Yet they exist already complete in divine purpose, where end and beginning exist simultaneously outside time's linear limitations. Jerusalem stands as the prophetic timepiece, its hands moving in precise calibration with heavenly timetables established before foundation. The ancient stones of Jerusalem stand witness to this moment as they have to countless others. They've seen empires rise and fall, Babylonian, Persian, Greek, Roman, Ottoman, British. They've absorbed prayers of countless generations who touched these surfaces with reverent hands and tear-stained faces. They've endured destruction and witnessed rebuilding repeatedly, defying the normal patterns of historical probability. Now they witness the fulfillment of what was spoken over them by prophets whose bones have long returned to dust, while their words remain vibrantly alive. The mystery hidden in plain sight throughout centuries now reveals itself to a generation positioned to recognize and receive. Not fully, we see as through darkened glass, but clearly enough to recognize divine fingerprints on current events unfolding in precise alignment with ancient text. Jerusalem trembles on the edge of destiny, balanced between what was and what will be, between the already and not yet of prophetic fulfillment. The convergence of prophecy and present reality creates something entirely new that transcends both historical analysis and futuristic speculation. Those with eyes to see recognize the significance beyond coincidence or human orchestration. Those with hearts prepared receive the revelation that bypasses intellectual barriers and speaks to deeper spiritual recognition. The mystery continues to unfold, day by day, gathering momentum like a river approaching the sea of complete manifestation. Jerusalem waits, watches and witnesses the hand of providence at work in ways subtle and dramatic, personal and global, intimate and cosmic. The story that began millennia ago enters its most revealing chapter. The book opens to pages previously sealed, revealing secrets reserved for this specific generation to discover and declare. And we are privileged to witness it unfold before our eyes, participating not merely as observers, but as commissioned messengers who will carry this revelation to places prepared to receive its transforming power. The wind shifts over Jerusalem today. Those sensitive to spiritual atmospheres report something changing in the very air. Molecular restructuring of reality as heaven's blueprint manifests in earthly dimension. The ancient rabbis spoke of tikkun olam, the repair of the world. That restoration accelerates visibly from Jerusalem outward. Creation itself responds. Unusual cloud formations appear over sacred sites. Unexplainable light phenomena documented by multiple witnesses simultaneously. Birds gather in unprecedented patterns reminiscent of prophetic imagery. Even geological instruments detect subtle shifts, as though the land itself recognizes its redemptive moment approaching. The original mandate given in Eden finds restoration beginning in this ancient city that connects 3 continents and stands as geographical and spiritual nexus point. The breaching of dimensional walls thins as heavenly Jerusalem begins overlaying physical Jerusalem in manifestation of Revelation's imagery. Those with prophetic sight report seeing angelic activity intensified beyond previous experience, heavenly hosts positioned as though for significant event. The atmosphere grows pregnant with anticipation, like the moments before dawn when night has not yet surrendered, but morning's victory is certain. Jerusalem has waited for this moment through centuries of desolation and decades of restoration. The fullness arrives not in cataclysm, but in progressive unveiling that invites participation rather than merely commanding attention. Those who position themselves through preparation now find themselves strategically placed to receive and transmit revelation that flows like living water from ancient springs, long sealed but now opened. The hidden becomes visible. The sealed becomes accessible. The mystery transforms to revelation before witnesses chosen for such a time as this.